ladies and gentlemen. This is WrestlingInc.com. I'm Andy Malnoske with the one and only ECW legend, Mikey Whipwreck, of course, ECW champion and longtime Extreme man here in Binghamton for Excite Wrestling here at the Rumble Ponies Stadium. Tim Tebow in the house tonight in this game, but right now, Mikey Whipwreck. And Mikey, first off, just talk to us about this experience, seeing this ring set up. It's a pretty sweet deal.
It's pretty cool. It's, you know, a lot of younger kids here. They have the Rumble pony in the ring there. He almost got his butt kicked. We had to have somebody come out and save him. But no, it's great. And people are really excited for the product here tonight and this afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, the guys in the back are excited for it, so it's a good time so far.
Yeah, and Rowdy the Pony allegedly, actually he did try to pick a fight with you down there in the locker room.
He did. I had to tell him, listen, buddy.
Step aside.
Don't make me roll my sleeves up that I don't have.
Anymore,
but yeah, no, it's fun. I like doing stuff. I don't do too much too often, but you know, when the opportunity comes around where something sounds like it's going to be a fun time, I'm all for it.
Yeah, excellent,
so,
Mikey. Well, wanted to ask you today. You know, pro wrestling certainly has changed in the last 2 decades, just a little bit. What's your first impressions of the product today that you see as compared to certainly the Extreme product that you were a part of?
It's moving forward, but again, moving back at the same time, where it's become more, again, athletic, I think, to more of an athletic style, less of the hardcore stuff, and more back to wrestling. But at the same time, I mean, these kids nowadays, I mean, they're doing stuff that's just unbelievable. Yeah, where's Tebow? Where is he?
Where is he?
He'll be here at 6 o'clock.
He's wrestling.
But yeah, I enjoy it actually, because it's a lot of the more athletic stuff that I kind of like, and you know, the kids today, they're doing some really amazing stuff. They're in phenomenal shape, most of them, you know, so I enjoy it. Some of it I don't get, like the Joey Ryan thing with the flip.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a little interesting, yeah, and I did a show in WrestleMania weekend for Joey Janela, and they had a match called the Cluster, you know, whatever, and they had an Invisible Man. You know, they're talking about, I'm going, okay, Invisible Man, that's like, I think it's somebody that's coming in that they don't want to leak to the internet.
You can't see him.
Right, so I figured, okay, well, he's not here yet. They just say, okay, the Invisible Man will do this. I said, okay. But no, it was legitimately an Invisible Man that they were doing spots with an Invisible Man, and the people loved it. So I'm like, wow, things have changed a little bit.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, the Invisible Man posted that audio right there.
He must have.
Yeah. But, well, Mikey, you know, one of the interesting things about your career in ECW was going from a ring crew worker to a wrestler. That's something you don't see too often, at least on the mainstream. Right. How'd you make that transition, and what fueled you to make that transition?
It was a fluke thing, really. We would put the ring up. I know the ring was up. We'd mess around, do spots. I think I did like a backflip off the top, landed on my feet, and Joey Styles saw it. And next thing you know, Paul Heyman goes, "Hey, do you want to wrestle?" Okay. And that was it. So there's really it wasn't like, here's my master plan. I'm going to sneak into it, but it just kind of happened.
Right.
You know, and then, you know, I've loved wrestling since I'm, you know, 6, 7 years old.
Right.
You know, I remember seeing the Iron Sheik and Sergeant Slaughter in the boot camp match from Madison Square Garden. I'm like, this is crazy. And then, you know, seeing guys like, you know, Randy Savage, you know, the characters, everything else, just, I've been hooked since. So once I was in, I was in.
You were good.
That was good.
And Mick Foley had a hand in some of your training as well. Of course, the hardcore icon.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he was mostly, I was kind of already trained, but he was more of the, we were teaming together and stuff, which was like, oh. But it was, you know, a lot of the learning, you know, on road trips. And that's I think, what having those full-time territories around where guys are lacking, because I used to travel with Taz and Paul Heyman and Tommy Dreamer and them and Mick Foley, and we do the show. Then you have like, you know, a 4 or 5 hour drive, and you just talk about the business for that road trip, and you just learn, talk about your match and different ideas and things like that. So I think that's one thing that's kind of missing, that they don't have those veterans with the young guys anymore traveling together around. But you know, but it was great. I mean, just learning from him was just, he was so smart. Like, you think, oh, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack was the hardcore guy, but he was so smart. Like, he got it. The psychology and everything of it, he got it. He had it down. So, and he did okay for himself, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good. He's
right.
pretty good. You know, Mikey, it's important to note that ECW, it was such an important, pivotal part of wrestling history, and the fact that there were guys that were just so hungry and motivated. What kept the talent coming back? You hear about the stories as well, where guys, maybe didn't get a paycheck and things like that. What was about that desire and motivation to go to a high level and put on matches that no one else saw?
I think it was one of those ECW. A lot of the guys that were there were like rejects at first from the WWE and WCW, so they kind of really nowhere else to really go, right. And plus just the atmosphere and the overall attitude of the us versus them type of deal. And with Paul Heyman, he wasn't micromanaging at all. He said, okay, this is kind of where we're going, and this is what I have in mind. Everything else, so he would give you A, he would give you Z, and then you could put B through Y was all up to you, So you had a lot of creative freedom there, do what you wanted, and just the atmosphere, and it was just a fun time.
It really was, and gone to a few ECW shows in my days as a fan as well, and just a special show. But going back to 2001, now with the whole the mergers and then the acquisitions, WCW, ECW, did WWE contact you at that time when it was like the new refurbished ECW at that time?
Indirectly. Paul kind of said, hey, well, I said, yeah, you know what, I don't think I could do it. I don't think my body could have handled the schedule. It was one of those, I probably could have done it. Like if they did, TV, Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday with house shows, I could probably get away with it. But being that you're doing your house shows, on the weekend, and then TV was like Monday and Tuesday, my body I just don't think it would have handled it. Yeah. It would not have ended well. Mm-hmm. Or it may have ended well, but it would have ended quickly. Right
on, man, right on.
Yeah. So.
And obviously they came back with the new ECW, the Big Show being champion later on in the 2000s. Jack Swagger, of course, here tonight as well. Yep. What was your first interpretations of that, of the reboot, so to speak?
Next question. No, it was good for the guys. It was good for that nostalgia thing. But when you're going to advertise something as ECW and give them ECW Light, with like a zombie type thing, I think was like the zombie.
The zombie, yeah. I guess it was cool, right?
That pretty much, as a person, he was cool. I just don't think that, if you're going to promote ECW, you need to give them ECW, and I don't think WWE, with their sponsors and things like that, could give ECW.
Right. So. In the Zombie versus Invisible Man, that'd be a great match right there.
Hey, in 2018, that would be over like Rover.
The Invisible Man. But, the one of the things, too, here today, here in Binghamton, Excite Wrestling, right here for WrestlingInc.com, with Mikey Whipwreck, of course, your famous finisher, the Whippersnapper. And which people don't know this, that the Stone Cold Stunner essentially morphed into that. Was
very similar, isn't it?
Yeah. So, any idea of, I don't want to say it was stolen, but maybe just borrowed in terms of that connection?
See, the Whippersnapper first was off the top rope. Mm-hmm. I was on the middle, the guy was on the top, which at the time seemed like a good idea. Mm-hmm. Months later, my rear end didn't really think that was a good idea anymore. Steve took it and did it from the mat, which made him a whole lot more money. There's a whole lot more longevity in that one. So yeah, I think it's everybody borrows from everybody else, but I think if you change it just a little bit, then you have the creative license, creative borrowing, I guess, if you will. But yeah, no, I saw Johnny, not Johnny, what's his name? Jimmy Garvin.
Yeah.
Came back on WCW. He did a pay-per-view, came back with a shaved head. I think Michael Hayes was in a wheelchair for whatever reason. And he wrestled Johnny B. Bad and did it. Called it the 911.
911.
I go, I could probably tweak that and change that a little bit. So I got it from Jimmy Garvin. Steve actually got it from Michael Hayes.
Right.
Who may have gotten it from Jimmy Garvin. But either way, the Freebirds were responsible for the Stunner and the Whippersnapper.
Right.
So
the logistics of it is that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's Steve did all right with it, and he's a cool guy. We joke about it every now and then when I see him. So it's cool stuff.
Yeah, and you mentioned Paul Heyman. the visionary of ECW, certainly still alive and well with Brock Lesnar in the WWE, being the advocate for Brock Lesnar out there on Raw. But describe working with him. I know that he was the man behind ECW that had this ultimate goal of what it could be, and taking guys to a new level. Tables, chairs, you name it, ladder matches, barbed wire matches with Sabu, Sandman, all those guys. How was it working with him? And it's really no secret to success. It's just hard work, and that's what he was.
He did not sleep. We called him the mad scientist because he was. I mean, there were plenty of times where it would be like 7 o'clock, show would start at 7:30 at the arena, and he'd have a piece of paper or a napkin even with a pencil like this. Or, you know, or he'd go, hey, who do you want to work with tonight? And I'd be like, Sabu. So it was just, you know, Paul was very good because he was very motivating. You know, he was like that cult-like leader where you're talking to him and you're believing everything he's saying. You know, he could be lying through his teeth, which many times was the case. But I mean, he knew how to motivate you. He had his hand on, and still does, on pop culture. So he knows what's in, what's not in. He knew the extreme word before it became, you know, in vogue. And he's always been very good at that. So he kind of knew what the people wanted, where the pulse was. So he had it down pretty good. And he's still doing okay today.
Yeah, he definitely gets it and always got it in the world of wrestling. And just a few more quick questions right here on WrestlingInc.com. Mikey Whipwreck, of all the crazy things that you saw in Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW, the benchmark of it, what was the craziest thing you ever saw in ECW in your experience?
In the ring or in the back? In the ring, the craziest thing I've seen was Sabu did a barbed wire match with Terry Funk, and Sabu did that running kick in the corner, and his arm sliced the barbed wire, and he had a giant slice in his arm. I mean, you could see the tendons. Oh. So he calls Fonzie. Fonzie throws in a roll of tape, and Sabu's just in there in the middle of his barbed wire match, just taping up his arm because he didn't want to give up the match. And then going back and see him try to crazy glue it shut.
Yeah, that's crazy glue.
Yeah. Stitches, crazy glue. It works okay. If you get like a little cut, you know, you can kind of squeeze it and crazy glue it, you know, instead of. But this was a giant gash where you see tendons and muscle and everything else. And
wow, that makes me cringe just thinking about it, man. It really does. And you know, you mentioned in the back. If you could say it publicly, what was the craziest thing in the back?
Maybe we should keep that in the back.
Probably should.
Maybe one day we'll expose it, but let's keep it now. Let people going, oh, I wonder what that story was. So now, probably for the next couple of weeks, hey, what were you going to talk about?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, so.
Now, recently, TNA Hardcore Justice, an invitation to go there. Perhaps, can you enlighten us on why maybe you didn't accept that invitation?
Dreamer asked me. I said, no thanks, and that was it. Mm-hmm. It was kind of, I wouldn't say it was ECW light. It wasn't even ECW light because you couldn't even do ECW because WWE owned it. Mm-hmm. So it was like, I hate to say Bush League ECW, but imposter ECW. So it was like one of those, yeah, you know what, we did the thing with WWE, and that was more authentic. Paul was there, Tommy was there. Right. It was one of the old ECW buildings, so it kind of had that atmosphere and vibe to it. Mm-hmm. The TNA doing it just, I don't know, it just felt kind of blah to me. So I'm like, I'll just pass. Right. Money would have been nice, but just wasn't feeling it. Wasn't feeling it.
You don't feel it, you know. Now, WWE, early part of the decade, 2010-ish, around there, asked to be a trainer with WWE. Can you tell us more about that?
They asked. I said no. One of those, I'd have to uproot my family to Florida, which I'm okay with that. But to uproot, and then one day they go, you know what, you're fired. Because that time they're kind of like a revolving door going. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like uprooting my family. My wife, she has a good job. Mm-hmm. I had a good job at the time. Do it. So I'm like, not really worth the risk. It would have been nice. I said maybe it's like a guest for like a week. Mm-hmm. It'd be okay, but it wasn't worth the actual just going there. I wasn't taking the risk. Maybe it would have worked out great. I could have been like Billy Kidman in the go-up position, but I also could have been there a week and said, this is terrible. They go, right. Mikey, you're not cutting it.
Right on. Right on.
So I'd end up here in Binghamton.
Yeah, right here. Here we are.
So that, if I want to say, it led me here. So I have no regrets about it. You know, and you can't worry about the what ifs.
Right on.
Because no point in that. I don't think anybody's invented time travel yet.
Right.
If they do, well, then things might turn out differently. But you know, it's good the way it turned out. You know, right move for me.
Yeah, it really certainly is. And, you know, just 2 quick questions is all right now. Mikey Whipwreck here, ECW icon and legend here at Excite Wrestling, also for WrestlingInc.com. Mikey, toughest guy in ECW you ever came across?
Me.
Of course.
Different versions of tough. There's tough in the ring, as far as like just absorbing punishment, that would probably be Sabu. Tough as far as just like crazy tough and just being like a badass, probably Perry Saturn. Then you have just insane street tough, which I'd probably say would be New Jack. And then overall tough, when they're around as the overall Grand Poobah, would probably be Dr. Death Steve Williams at the time. He wasn't there that long, but he was a badass.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And final question here in Binghamton, New York, WrestlingInc.com. Drum roll right here. Is this right here? Is if you had one more ECW match, ECW style, Mikey Whipwreck, who would it be against?
It would be me and Tajiri against the FBI, because that was some of the most fun matches we've had. You know, just Tajiri and I had just like a chemistry with Jim Mitchell, the Devil, and you know that was a good time. So if I go back and kind of relive it once, it'd probably be those guys, because we had fun.
And here to Joey Styles' call one more time.
Oh my God!
I love it. Mikey Whipwreck, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For taking the time for us. And ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Mikey Whipwreck, ECW legend here in Binghamton, New York. We're checking out for WrestlingInc.com.